Hi, I'm Dre. I'm your life coach and mentor of change, and I want to welcome you to another one of our Thursday Get Together Masterminds. Today, we are going to continue in our discussion that we've been doing for the entire month of August, where we are talking about the mindset of a winner. And this week, we're going to focus in particular about just the benefits of having an overall optimistic and positive outlook on life. And it's one of those things that I think gets kind of misconstrued where people are like, oh, positivity, that means like stick your head in the ground and pretend like everything is okay. Well, no, not at all. But I totally get why some people would say that because that is sometimes the way people perceive things. For today, we're going to talk about the 6 strategies that you can implement in your life to maintain a positive outlook, where you can make it a staple of your personality and the way that you just perceive things. And I think the immediate benefit that you will find is when you're stressed, when you're worried, when you're anxious, you immediately start losing some of your rationale, some of your creativity, some of your thoughtfulness. You end up going into kind of like a shell. You go into survival mode. And the way your brain interprets things is, I need to make sure I stay alive. So I stop looking, I stop thinking, I stop creating. I just focus on staying alive. And if you've lived any type of that situation, you'll find that if you're stressed or overwhelmed, that it's very difficult for you to make very clear decisions, right? You'll get what some people call like tunnel vision. And I just don't want you to get that. Like you'll find that winners are able to kind of stay even keeled. They're able to stay optimistic. And when I say optimistic, what I mean is you have the ability to find a way out. You have the ability to find a next best step. And that is something that I preach a lot of the time. If you've even read my book, The Champion of Change, I have an entire law focused on that. And that is the law of catalyst. And it's built on the premise that you are positive event stacking. It's not that any one event is good or bad. It's that the decisions that you make with your current situation is always the next best decision. And the only way you can do that is by maintaining an overall positive outlook. You have to maintain that positivity. And so that is what we're going to focus on today. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. For strategy number 1, you will find that gratitude, as I already mentioned, is a staple of anyone that's able to remain optimistic. And it's one of those things that's difficult for us because we naturally look for negativity. If you think of any news program, if you've watched any of them, I don't watch TV really anymore, but I remember one time that I did take the time to like see a news program, and I just counted how many negative stories they gave. Like we all know that they start off with a couple negative stories to get you hooked, but I didn't know how many. Well, if you could guess or imagine, it was actually the first 16 segments of that news program were all negative. Someone was shot, raped, robbed, terrorist attack, taxes going up, government shutting down, you name it, it was on the news. They just picked all the worst situations you can find. And if you watch that on a regular basis, believe you me, it is very difficult for you to imagine doing anything but hiding in your house. It's very difficult for you to imagine working with anyone because you believe that everyone is out to get you. It's very difficult for you to even want to drive, right? You start creating these stereotypes and these perceptions that you have about people that you've never met. I think one of my favorite examples just has to do with the way people perceive CEOs, right? How many people has met a Fortune 500 CEO? And most people haven't, but how many people have a strong opinion about one? Like if I say Fortune 500 CEO, depending on where you're at or what you watch, you may believe that they are all money hungry and that they sacrifice time and people to make a profit and that they are ruthless and cutthroat and a lot of these different things. Okay, well, if most people haven't met one, where do they get that perception? And it really has to do with everything from what we watch as adults to everything we watch with our children. Most of the stories that I've watched with my kids, like the villain usually is some like corporation. It's a very tiny white guy that's usually very chubby, and he is cutting all the corners to make a buck. I mean, he is just a nasty dude. Movies like The Nut Job 2 come to mind, movies like The Lorax come to mind, and I could just keep going, but you really get the idea. And so what ends up happening is we end up having these perceptions that were kind of implanted in us subconsciously impact our overall decision making. So for you to overcome this negativity, that is a natural part of your life, and it's also a part that's being forced down your throat. You have to train your mind to look for the positive and to overlook some of the negative. because you'll find that in most situations, it's less than 10% of whatever that group is actually the ones doing negativity, and you're overlooking the 90% that does things perfectly fine. And so, if you want to train your mind to look for positivity, I want you to basically create a gratitude journal. And I've mentioned this before, but it really works. I want you to take every time you have a negative thought, write down two things you're grateful for. And you will slowly train your mind to look for the positivity. You will find the grateful situation in every instance in your life, and it'll really give you that overall perspective that things aren't as bad as I think they are. Number two is you want to be living in a positive environment. And I already talked about a lot of the negative influences that you take in your life. The way that you counteract that is you have to really stop watching a lot of that stuff. And I'll just get right to the point on that. You basically want to take and write down the 4 or 5 most negative impacts in your life. So this could be people, it could be coworkers, family, friends, it could be any type of person, but then it can also be anything that you take in from an information perspective that you absorb and it's negative. So this could be news, podcasts, TV, commercials, it could be anything. And I want you to start looking at these and I want you to replace each of these with something that is positive. So if it is a person, then realistically you're going to have to start limiting your time with them. If it's a TV show, then you're going to find a different show. Ideally, we'll work towards where you're not making a disciplined approach where you feel like overwhelmed by the idea of like I really like watching the show, I really like these people, and it's sad that I have to cut them off. But if we slowly find just something that you also enjoy doing, but you receive a positive result from it, then you will make the decision that it will be better for me just to spend more time with the positive person and the positive shows and the positive influences. And then it's not really the whole like disciplined approach. It's a very free will type of approach, but you will see that gives you the actual results that you want. I think I've read somewhere where 60% of people make a resolution each year, and somewhere like 50 or 60% of those people who make them end up quitting their resolution within 30 days. And and less than 10% actually make it to make that resolution a part of their actual life. And what really changes is people are not making a lot of small changes. They're trying to make drastic changes. And these are very willpower, discipline driven approaches, and that wears. Your willpower and discipline wears over a period of time. It's an exhaustible resource. So I just want to save you from that. Number three is you just want to add value to someone else's life. Bottom line, if you are able to positively impact someone's life, two amazing things are going to happen. Number one, you are going to be someone's like guardian angel. People are going to feel really awesome about you and they're going to be very grateful and thankful. And that makes you in turn feel pretty appreciated. And that is something that's going to help you to have a positive outlook about your life and the value that you create. Number two is it's going to provide perspective. You're going to realize that everything that you thought was going on in your life that was like really bad is really nothing compared to someone else's life. And that perspective is huge. And I'll give you the example when I had tore my patella tendon and I went to the emergency room, I sat there for 6 hours. And my knee had swollen up like a grapefruit, like a bowling ball, and I was sure that I needed to see someone. I was like, I may have to lose my leg. Like this, I need to get someone immediately. Because what was going on in my life, that never happened. And so it was huge for me. And I remember at like 5.5 hours, I got up and I went to the nurse's desk and I was just like, hey, I've been here like over 5 hours. Is there any sort of like possibility that I'm going to be seen within the next like 20 minutes or so? The nurse was like, no, we're the only hospital within like 100 miles that has a trauma center. And when I sat and thought about it, I was like, oh, so like you're talking about like life or death. Like even in my worst situation, I would just lose my leg. I wouldn't lose my life. And it's one of those things that you really don't think about until you have to think about it. And so I kind of sat back down and I was like, okay, well, I just hope that everybody that had to cut me is okay. The people that were like stabbed or shot or got in a car accident or fell off a building or whatever was going on that got them bumped in front of me. Like I was really starting to think about them. And that perspective just kind of changes you. Number four is you just really want to forgive and not hold on to grudges. It's one of those things that, as a society, we have trained people to say that people have to earn your forgiveness, like you're doing them a favor. But that's just not true. Forgiveness is for you. It's something that benefits you. Nelson Mandela has this quote that says, like, resentment is like drinking poison, waiting for your enemy to die. And I cannot phrase it any better than that. It is eating you away inside. If you think about a relationship where someone cheated on someone else and that person can't forgive them, it changes them. It changes the way that they interact with that person. They stay up late, and when the person's late, they get suspicious. They don't trust them anymore. And now they sneak around and they're checking their voicemails and they're checking their emails and they're looking at their text messages. They have short fuses with the person where the person can say anything and they react in a very aggressive and upset manner. And worst case scenario, they are now cheating on their spouse because they believe their spouse is still cheating on them. And if they could forgive the person, then they would not lose themselves. See, the poison is not that you are dying physically, it's that you're dying like emotionally, like who you are. The essence of you is slowly leaving you. And it creates a lot of issues if you can't forgive people. So, what I'm telling you is forgive someone whether they ask you or not, forgive someone whether they show remorse or not, forgive someone because it's for you. I've had this debate with a lot of people, and they believe that the person needs to ask for forgiveness. But I am telling you, it is not in your benefit to hold like this grudge list where it's like, well, blah, 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 didn't apologize to me, so I'm going to like give him a stink eye today. Or, okay, well, if you think that that is the best approach for your life, then you do that. I've seen the way it turns out. What ends up happening over time is other people start forgiving the person, and then you get mad at them because you're like, you're my friend, you're supposed to be in this with me, and they're like, yeah, I'm in it with you, but I don't really have an issue with them, right? Like they are okay now, and you're like, no, they're never okay. And then that strains that relationship and all of your relationships. And so I just really want you to contemplate the idea of just forgiving so you can let go and move on. And number five, you just want to start your day on a positive note. It's one of those things that I actually enjoy doing. If when you're able to do like some sort of a morning routine and you're able to get that immediate jump start where you get like a quick like 3, 4 wins, it sets you up for your whole day. Like for example, for me, when I start my day off and I know it's going to be an awesome day, I will have meditated. I will have thought about my family, friends, prayed over them. I will have maybe listed some stuff I'm grateful for. I'll have done like Reiki, which is like energy cleaning. Like I will have done these 4 or 5 things and it sets my day off amazing. I just feel like I am now ready. I have the energy, I have the patience, I have the drive and resolve to attack this day. And it's one of those things that if you're able to do it on a regular basis, it's almost like the Pavlov's dog experiment where it's like the bell was chiming and every time the dog got food when the bell chimed, eventually the bell just chimed and the dog's mouth salivated. There was no food there. And it's the same with you. If you're able to create like 3 or 4 things that you want to do every morning and then you knock them out of the park, eventually your mind's going to be like, well, that means today's going to be a great day. And it's just something that you want to get in the habit of because when the list, whatever it is, are things that are important to you, right? It's whatever you want to do. And I'm telling you, it's whatever you want to do to start your morning off. You just want to make sure you're consistent and that it is a positive result in your life. And so I just think that that will be really cool. And last but not least, I just want you to challenge your negative emotions. And what I mean by that is whenever you mess up, the immediate thought is, I failed, I suck, I fell short. But the reality is, I had some information, I made decisions, and now I have more information, and I would not make that decision again. And I will make a better decision next time. The reality most of the time is we make decisions with the information we have, and sometimes we win and sometimes we lose. Maybe I wouldn't have hired that vendor. Maybe I wouldn't have chose that color. Maybe I wouldn't have interviewed at that company, right? Like there's all sorts of things that you maybe would have changed if you had the information you have now. But that doesn't mean that you like suck at decision making. It just means you made the best decision that you could have made with the information that you had. Or maybe it means that you trusted someone and that person is untrustworthy. It took you a while to find that out. Okay. It doesn't mean you're a bad judge of character. That just means the person that you trusted wasn't the best person to trust. Whether they exaggerated in a resume, whether they exaggerated with a friend's reference, whether they maybe fabricated the whole thing, that's not on you. That's on them. What is on you is now that you have this better information, what are you going to do now? And the mistake a lot of us make is we get down on ourselves when we're not perfect, but you really can't be perfect. The only way you could be perfect, right? Because I'm thinking kind of as I'm saying it, the only way you could be perfect is if you did not change anything in your life, You did not strive for any goals, you did not pursue any purpose, and you just did the same thing every day for like 80 years. I guarantee you, you will be a star. You'll find that most mistakes happen because you are stretching towards some sort of a goal. You are working towards improving and accomplishing something. And that creates the uncertainty that you find with most decisions when you don't have all the information. And so I just encourage you to cherish the reality that you are uncertain because you are striving to be something more. You are trying to become the champion of your dream life. And that is pretty amazing within itself. So don't beat yourself over it. It is not something that you should really dwell on. You should just accept the fact that you're going to learn a lot. And that most change journeys, the best part is the journey. The getting there is just kind of like, oh, well, that's nice. Like it's good to kind of achieve what I wanted to, but you'll find that most of your transformation happens on the journey because the beliefs you have today is what creates your reality. It's what creates the actions that you have. You'll find that millionaires have different beliefs about money than the poor and middle class. You'll find that healthy people have different beliefs about like food and like exercise than someone who is obese or someone who is malnourished. And if you want to become the champion of your life, if you want to change your life in some way, you're going to have to change the beliefs that you have. And as your beliefs change, then your actions are going to change and you're going to make mistakes. And that's okay. That's actually better than okay. That's amazing. Keep going. You can do it. So I'll just read over my list very quickly just so you can have that recap. If you want to have any additional information, you can go to the letter U, youforecasthope.com/episode 9. But on the list, we have gratitude, living in a positive environment, adding value to someone else's life, forgiving and moving on, starting the day on a positive note, and challenging your negative emotions. If you have found value, if you have enjoyed this video and our time together, please understand that most people want to change something about their life, but they are discouraged by self-doubt and their fears. I have created You Forecast Hope so you can accomplish your resolutions and be confident in your ability to become the champion of your life. If you are interested in a free access membership, it's limited, but it is free. Go to the letter U, forecasthope.com and find out more. I always enjoy our time together, and I hope to see you next week. Continue blessings on your journey to become the champion of your dream life.